Andor is easily one of the best entries in the Star Wars franchise so far. It's dark, cinematically gorgeous, and features some of the best storytelling since The Mandalorian. Now that Season 1's over, we binged it again to see if we could find a few Easter eggs hidden in plain sight. The series has dozens of them, but Luthen's shop on Coruscant is the motherlode. So in this video, let's dive into his treasures. First up, Luthen's shop is a Star Wars treasure chest. Episode 4 was chock full of delicious Easter eggs. We got a lot of familiar artifacts when we visit Luthen's shop on Coruscant. The first thing he picks up is an Utapau monk cudgel, which is a deep-cut reference to Revenge of the Sith. The term Utapau refers to the planet Utapau, where the Obi-Wan fought General Grievous in Revenge of the Sith. It looks like a baseball bat, except if the top half had spikes coming out of it. You could do some gnarly damage with this thing. We're not sure who an Utapau monk is, and why a monk-like entity would use a dangerous weapon like that. Interestingly, the Grand Inquisitor from Rebels, and more recently, Obi-Wan Kenobi, is a Puan male, one of the 3 species that live on Utapau. But the more interesting thing in Luthen's shop is the set of Beskar armor that sits on the display. It looks like something Jango Fett wore during the prequel era, because Din Djarin's Beskar is a lot smoother. Is Boba Fett out there looking for this particular set? You never know. Up next, the Sith Stalker armor and the 3 stone tablets. The Utapau cudgel and Beskar armor are one thing, but we weren't ready when we saw another set of armor at the back of Luthen's shop. The armor looks way too similar to Galen Merrick's Sith Stalker armor from the Force Unleashed game. Obviously, it's not just a coincidence by the set designers, and Tony Gilroy deliberately put it there for us to find. That just goes to show you he really knows his Star Wars history, but sadly, that still doesn't make the Force Unleashed canon. But hey, maybe it's just a cool reminder of the good times we had playing the game back in 2008. Now, the other thing, the 3 stone tablets. They're a surprising Easter egg, and not just because they're a deep-cut reference to Rebels and the Clone Wars. How did Luthen get his hands on them? The stone tablets have 3 handprints on them, each in a different position. For those of you who don't know, in Star Wars Rebels Season 4 Episode 12, Ezra Bridger finds a mural of 3 beings with their hands in the same positions as the 3 stone tablets. These beings are the Father, the Son, and the Daughter, who were seen in the Mortis arc in the Clone Wars. The Son represents the dark side of the Force, and the Daughter represents the light. The Father is the balance between them. While the stone tablets might not have any significance on Andor's story as a whole, we're just happy Luthen got his hands on them somehow. Finally, Luthen's collection of Jedi memorabilia. You know, for a guy who said he doesn't want to make Andor a show about fan service, there's a lot of it in there. We've already covered the main attractions, but there's still some good ones to pick. When Mon Mothma and Luthen head into another room in his shop, right at the back you can see 2 holocrons that were used by both the Jedi and the Sith as storage devices. The cube-shaped holocron is used by the Jedi, while the pyramid-shaped holocron is used by the Sith. But other than that, there's a deactivated Gungan energy shield that first appeared in The Phantom Menace, and also a quietly hidden Keldor mask that we've seen Jedi Masters like Plo Koon wear. It's probably not the same mask that Plo wore in The Phantom Menace, because that'd be in really bad condition after what happened to the poor guy. Still, it's amazing how Luthen is able to run his antiquity shop with so many objects belonging to the Jedi Order. You'd think the Empire would come knocking on his door, but maybe the man's got connections that we don't know about yet. Either way, Luthen's shop is a playground for Star Wars fans who love subtle references to what's come before. Now, let's hop out of Luthen's shop and look at 5 other cool Easter eggs from Season 1, starting with the 4-armed Doctor at number 5. The Aldhani heist was a heart-stopper. Tamarin was shot dead, Cassian killed Skeen, and Nemik was fatally injured. It was a dark, brutal thing to witness. In order to save Nemik, the remaining members of the team take him to a 4-armed Doctor who tries treating his wounds. Sadly, there's nothing to be done and Nemik dies, but not before passing his manifesto to a reluctant Cassian. Enough about Nemik, let's talk about the 4-armed Doctor that many of us remember as the Basilisks. The first time we meet the species is when the diner owner, Dexter Jetster, is introduced in Attack of the Clones. The Clone Wars also had a fantastic Jedi-turned-Sith arc of Pong Krell, another Basilisk who's later killed by Dogma. Now, it's possible that the Doctor in Andor isn't a Basilisk. Well, he's much smaller and doesn't have the species head ridges. Interestingly, he bears a resemblance to Maz Kanata from The Force Awakens, so maybe he's a cross between 2 different species. Who knows? Still, we think he's a Basilisk for sure, but maybe a different tribe of them. Coming up is the Imperial Senate at number 4. The end of Episode 6 gave us a stunning view of the Imperial Senate, which we remember as the place where Palpatine declared himself the Emperor. Andor doesn't spend too much time here, but it's given us perhaps the best on-screen depiction of the Imperial Senate in any Star Wars media. Remember how Palpatine slowly corrupted everyone in the Senate and grew his influence to unimaginable levels. Well, that was back when the Senate actually used to be occupied, and ideas and issues were openly discussed. When Palpatine came into power, fewer and fewer people kept showing up to the Senate, until no one really cared anymore. Meetings were once a year, and they were short. Palpatine had all the power. So the fact that Mon Mothma's words echo on empty ears is a chilling reminder of what it was like before A New Hope. As you can see, the Emperor has stopped coming to the meetings, and we don't even get a glimpse of Maz Amida or Slymore. Mothma really struggles against the system here, and it's great that the showrunner kept this detail within the series. In third place, it's Andor's homage to THX 1138. The Narkina 5 arc was awesome as the rescue in The Mandalorian. Everything about it was extremely well done, but one of the more welcome cameos came from Andy Serkis as Kino Loy. For longtime fans of the series, Andy's cameo brought back memories of Supreme Leader Snoke in the sequel trilogy. But other than that, the entire prison facility seems like an homage to George Lucas's first feature film, THX 1138. The cinematic parallels here are mind-blowing. The prisoners are dressed in white and live in a highly sterile environment. They work day in and day out and have no other purpose except working. Episode 8 and 9 were genuinely chilling, and now we know why. At number 2, it's the Quad Jumper. Right after escaping Narkina 5's prison facility, Cassian and Melshi eventually find an alien ship that they intend to steal. Things go sideways when they set off a trap, but they're eventually able to get a ride back to Niamos. But if you look closely at the ride, you'll notice that it looks really familiar. Cassian calls it a quad jumper, referring to the cockpit, sandwiched between 4 powerful engines. The first time we saw this was in The Force Awakens, when Rey and Finn are running from First Order troopers on Jakku. The ship gets destroyed before they're able to reach it, so they hop into the Millennium Falcon instead. But even though the quad jumper in Andor looks like an older model, we're glad we finally got to see it take off. Finally, at number 1, it's the TIE Bomber. In Episode 11, Luthen gets into some trouble with an Imperial Arrestor cruiser. He is able to break out of the cruiser's tractor beam, but it sends out a squad of TIE fighters after him. Now, most of them are standard TIE fighters, but there's a TIE Bomber in there too. It was a shock to see the bomber because it's rarely seen in live-action Star Wars media. The first time we saw one was in the asteroid belt scene in The Empire Strikes Back, and its design was pretty distinct from the fighter. It's got curved wings and a dual cockpit design, one to hold the pilot, the other to hold bombs. A more recent live-action appearance of the bomber was in Episode 5 of the Book of Boba Fett, where the TIE Bomber played a role in the Great Purge of Mandalore. It's got a dark history behind it, so we're glad Luthen took one out with ease. And that's a wrap, folks. Thanks for watching. So what was your favorite Easter egg from Andor? Which ones did we miss? Tell us down below. As always, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more Star Wars content in the future. See you in the next one.